oxidative priority, meal frequency, and the economy. Obesity.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
I'm Isabel.
I'm Coven.
And I'm Sienna. So a lot of America is fat and it's getting worse. And so a lot of research has come out on how to address this because it costs billions of dollars in healthcare in America alone.
So food primarily was meant for sustenance, right? So back many years ago, our ancestors hunted and they foraged for food just to have something to eat. But these days, because of the sheer amount of food that's available, people are starting to become more obese due to choosing food more over like flavor rather than their sustenance or nutrients. People seem to care more about how food tastes, regardless of what's in it.
I eat
Which is bad.
McDonald's every day after school. Am I gonna get fat?
Yes.
Yes,
Let's
you
talk
will.
about why. Okay, so BMR is basal metabolic rate. So that is how much you burn in a day-to-day due to a lot of factors, as you can see here. So TEE is total energy expenditure. So that's how much, like the entire energy that you expend. DIT is dietary induced thermogenesis, which is the energy used to break down food. EE is energy expenditure. So like walking up the stairs, just like doing whatever, or fidgeting, typing on your laptop are all examples of EE. And EIT is environmentally induced thermogenesis, such as if it's cold outside. Okay, so rates of fat utilization and fasting states. In this image, you can see the calories consumed was 75 when the person was sitting, and then 500 when the person was jogging. And then fat utilization was significantly less for the person who's sitting versus the person who is running, right? Because they're burning a lot more energy. But if you change your habits, then you could take advantage of like manipulating the process. So if you're sitting, you come close to someone who ran for an hour, and that's due to fasting and choosing your diet wisely, because then your body will have to break down fats as opposed to just glycogen or food you
Wait,
can
so you're
eat.
telling me if I fast and I just sit at my desk and play video games for the whole day, I'll still be burning as much fat as the guy who runs?
Pretty close to it, yes.
What?
And part of that is because of meal compensation. So someone who goes out and they're like, oh, I'm going to lose 10 pounds before my wedding. I'm going to go run like 4 miles every day. And then they come home and they eat a massive snack and then a massive dinner. Like they might like gain weight because your body's like in a state of stress. They're like, oh, we need to save energy because we're going to go run again. And and some people are like so confused. Why am I not losing weight? Well, it's because your body is like designed to store fat, which is like we have unlimited fat, which is why you can see obese people reaching, I think, 800 pounds lately.
Well, I mean, I guess that's just an evolutionary thing. Like having a lot of fat is good.
Yeah.
And a
Well, it was
technical
good
standpoint.
if we would have famines, but nowadays
Okay, yeah, but
inconvenient.
hypothetically, if who's gonna have the last laugh when all the food is gone and then all the obese people are just like, what are you guys doing? You know?
Yeah, but
Actually,
what if they die?
it makes me think of the Hunger Games because I remember um back when the first Hunger Games like movies and stuff were released, there was like this what Matt Pat made a video on it. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
strategy to survive the Hunger Games, eat a lot because if you're fat, like you're gonna outlive everyone else
Oh
who's
yeah.
starving to death. Right.
Which is a good strategy if you're living in a fictional
Well,
universe.
okay, but that doesn't make sense because the people would take control of like the cornucopia thing, and then they have unlimited food there, so they're gonna outlast you.
Yeah.
So
They
bad
also
theory.
take the risk of like getting bludgeoned to death.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't run away. You're like waddling.
Yeah, so it has advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so by understanding these processes of fat storage and oxidation, which is like burning fat, we can help decrease obesity. And like we mentioned before, when people are fat, it costs a lot of money for the healthcare system because, I mean, there's like drugs. If you have diabetes, you might have to get insulin shots. That can be hundreds of dollars a month. And then you have cardiovascular disease. Usually these are comorbidities. So you have multiple at once. And then you die earlier, and then like it's genetic, and your kids are fat, and then it's like a whole thing. And it costs so much money to treat. So oxidative hierarchy and DIT. So DIT is the diet induced thermogenesis. So the the energy used to digest things. In this image, you can see like the storage system is interesting to note because for carbohydrates, you have glycogen that's in your liver and your muscles, and that has a maximum, and that's around, I would say, 1,500 calories for the average person. But fat is unlimited, so if you eat fat or you eat in excess of calories, then your body's just going to store it forever. And then, yeah, so if you have a meal and you have like a glass of wine, you have chicken and pasta with like a white sauce that hits alcohol, protein, carbs, and fats. But your body doesn't just burn all of those at once. Your body wants to get rid of the alcohol first because it's a toxin. You have no storage for it. And that has, I think, 7 calories per gram. And then it's proteins, and then it's carbohydrates, and then it's fats. So if you eat like you're like, oh, I'm going to lose weight, so I'm going to have 800 calories a day, but I'm going to eat a pie, then you're not going to lose as much weight as someone who eats 800 calories of salad and like grains and fruits and stuff. 800 calories is terrible. Don't crash diet. But that's just me.
My dad always told me, like, when we were going running, like, oh, you run your first 20 minutes, you're like burning muscle, and then like the next 30 minutes you're burning carbs, and then the last hour you're burning fat. Like, is that relevant to this? Because I feel like that's the order of like storage capacity. Your body can't store it as well, so it burns those first. But it's like burning muscle, not exactly, but
I mean, you don't burn muscle.
yeah, no, like
last thing you burn.
Yeah.
You don't burn muscle until your body thinks that you're going to run out of fat. But it depends on the activity, because studies show like if you're walking, you burn primarily fat because it's like you can get that energy fast enough because fat takes a lot more energy to break down. But carbohydrates, if you're doing like anaerobic activities, like you got to get that glucose to turn into energy. So running, especially at faster speeds or any other cardio activity, would target carbohydrates. But then, you know, like marathon runners, I mean, they're running like very long time, and then they hit a wall. That's when they run out of glycogen, and then they start breaking down on fat. But they're slower because it takes a long time to break down the fat. So you're not really going to hit muscle. It's usually, when you're losing weight, it's usually a very small amount of muscle, but your body's very smart about it. So you'll get rid of the muscle that you don't need, because like if you weigh more, you obviously are a lot more stronger to carry your body weight. When you lose the weight, like you get rid of that muscle, but you still have enough to like do your day-to-day activities. And if you go to the gym, you'll maintain it.
So is that why people say like if you're trying to lose fat, like do low intensity cardio for like long periods of time versus like
Oh yeah, like 30 minutes walking incline.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
It's great.
I always see those like, oh, there's like walking playlists, Taylor Swift, like those videos on TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it really depends on your goals, because I mean, if you really want to lose weight, then you got to do that 2-hour walk every day.
Oh,
Okay, so in the study, they had they made this new food pyramid. So you probably heard of the food pyramid, where they have like I think it's grains at the bottom, and then it goes up and it's like milk and stuff.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like, yeah, oh, you need to eat all of this. Well, it's very broad and not very scientifically based. And in this diagram on the right, they have like they just showed like the 3 main areas plus nuts and seeds. And then so you have meat and dairy, which is fat, and then like the greens and stuff, which is low in carbs. It's kind of just like vitamins. And then plant foods like cereals and potatoes, starchy vegetables, those are carbohydrates. And then they showed that paleo diet emphasizes the animal foods and the leafy greens. Western diet is more the meat and carbohydrates, such as like a hamburger. And then vegan diet is everything except the meat. And they're just kind of like showing the different priorities. So it's important to understand that when like choosing a fad diet kind of thing. Well,
So
don't do fad diets.
So like you talk about like diets, right? So like the keto diet, they say like, oh, it helps you burn, like targets fat or something, right? Like how does that work compared to like what you
Because so in a keto diet, you're not eating any carbohydrates. So the only thing you have is fat. So you eat fat and you eat meat, and then it's called ketosis because you start burning fat and that releases ketones, which it's ketoacidosis. So it's an acid and it's in your blood, and then in extreme cases, it goes to your brain and you die, but that really happens. Interesting enough, like genetics kind of determine what kind of diet is best for you. Some people are better with keto, but yeah, so you only eat fat, you store it, and then you only burn fat. So it's still, but because fats are 9 calories per gram versus carbohydrates and proteins, which are 4, then you could still gain weight on keto, which is important to
Yeah.
keep track of.
And past applications in burning fat and losing weight and stuff. Overall, a vegetarian slash like pescatarian diet. Like my dad's been trying to get me to start one of those because in the long run, it'll make you live longer and have better health benefits than all these processed like Western foods.
Very good for your heart and kidneys, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the dieting fitness world, it's very oversimplified to say calories in, calories out, because what we just talked about with the oxidative hierarchy and the like DIT, it's very, very incorrect. So if you eat, like in the pie example, if you just eat like pure carbohydrates and pure fat, like that's it takes less energy to store that and break it down versus a healthier diet. So the combustion of food does not equal the consumption of food. And yeah, certain combos of foods. So the most processed foods, such as like a hamburger, for instance, you have grease in the meat, which is a lot of fat. And then you have like a bun, and you might have like a sauce or something, which has a lot of sugar and carbs. And if you have a soda with it, that's a lot of sugar. So high fat, high carb, because of that oxidative priority, like you're gonna target the protein first, and then you hit the carbohydrates. You just store the fat because you probably don't need it. You have all that glycogen. And so, yeah, and it's also a hormonal thing. So you just like store a lot of fat. And bad.
Yeah, I think a lot of gym goers, like, when you're bulking or cutting, like, oh, I have to hit my calorie, or like I have to stay below these calorie limits for the day. Like this is just telling us, oh, it's not that strict. You have to pay attention to what you're eating as well. Like I've seen these videos like, oh, I'm bulking, I have to hit 5,000 calories today. It's almost midnight, and like chug some olive oil or something. It's just not the same.
I mean, on just like a base level, I guess it makes an intuitive sense, like calories in, calories out. Oh, if I don't eat as many calories as I'm like burning off, oh, it makes sense. I'm in a calorie deficit. I'm going to lose weight, right? But it's not that simple. And like, yeah.
And another important thing. Oh yeah. No, Kevin, go ahead.
I was gonna say one of our friends, I won't say who, but like they were just eating straight peanut butter to bulk. Like, this whole big thing of like peanut butter at lunch.
Yeah, that's not great. Also, calories in, calories out, if you did it correctly, it doesn't last that long, because there was a study, I think it was 13 days. They took this guy, his BMR was like 1,800 calories. So if he didn't eat, he went through his whole day, he burned 1,800 calories. And then they cut him down to eating, I think it was 600 calories a day. And his BMR adjusted in 13 days. And so his body slowed down the processes, because this is like the evolution thing. If you have less food, you need to hold on to what you have. So then your metabolism significantly slows. But alternatively, if you start eating more, your metabolism doesn't speed up fast enough. It does a little bit, but it's not fast enough. And then you gain weight like that. So yeah, fad diets are very bad.
It reminds me a lot of like those like Jaden Animations, and how she released that like eating disorder video a couple years ago, where it was like talking about like the exact same concept, like, oh, when you first restrict, your body immediately goes into like, oh my God, we're in the medieval times and we're going through a famine, like
starvation mode.
Yeah, starvation mode, like fight or flight. Let's immediately stop how many calories we burn. And then like even when Jaden Animations, she adjusted back to like a regular diet, it was like all of a sudden so much extra weight's being gained, and that's like obviously taxing for someone who has that like mindset, but it's interesting.
I think it can be done healthily. I think it's possible, but it takes a lot of work, because you have to slowly wean yourself, and you have to stay active, and you have to eat the right stuff. And it's just like, it's not worth it reaching there in the first place. Understanding oxidative priority is critical to staying healthy.